Welcome and welcome back, everybody. It's Tia here, and in today's video we are going to be checking out the Maiden in the Forest, which is a small wallet game published by Button Shy Games and designed by Todd Sanders. In this game, we'll be playing as a maiden who is trying to escape from an enchanted forest, represented by these 12 tree cards. In order to do that, we are going to spend each day phase using the powers of different items to swap the places of these different trees. And each night, we'll be able to cast up to 3 spells in order to first rotate and then flip the cards over. If we're able to flip all 12 tree cards before the end of 12 rounds, then we have won. And for setup, we have our 12 tree cards, which have been shuffled and randomly set out in a circular pattern. I like to think of this as a clock, with our maiden pointing to the topmost tree, aka 12 o'clock. In addition to that, we have our 4 item cards. I've shuffled them together and placed one off to the side. So jumping into our first day phase, we are first going to be able to manipulate these different cards using the 3 items that we've drawn for the round. The comb lets us swap any 2 adjacent cards, the fire lets us swap any 2 cards from anywhere, and the leaf lets us swap 2 opposed cards on exact opposite sides of the circle. Now our bird card, which we may have access to in future rounds, will let us swap 2 cards that either have the same symbol or the same color. And it's important to note that whatever card is left out of the round cannot be manipulated during either the day or the night phase. So these are valid and fine to use as long as they don't manipulate any of the cards that have birds on them. During the night phase, we're going to be looking to use 3 different types of spells in order to flip and rotate cards. The first of which is the path, which will affect cards that are exactly opposite one another. They have to share either the same color or symbol in order for us to activate that spell. The next spell is the divergence. This will look at 3 cards that are exactly 4 cards apart, and from card 1 to 2 and card 2 to 3, they'll have to have a shared color or symbol. The last is a crossroads, which is very similar, except it will be 4 cards spaced evenly apart. And again, each card will have to match the next in either color or symbol. So for our first day phase, let's see what we can do here. It does seem that we do have some combs that are lined up quite nicely. So I'm seeing this comb, and almost this comb. And unfortunately, we can't swap these 2 adjacent cards because one of them does have the bird icon. So that's a little unfortunate. Perhaps instead, we can make them so that they are 4 cards that share a trait. So that would be this card, this card, this card, and nope, a bird card. So that's not great either. Well, we do have a comb with a blue tree, as well as this blue tree. If we can get this one to be a blue tree as well, then we would just need to change this one out. So there are quite a few options. We may need to go with a smaller spell that affects less cards. Certainly we could swap these 2 using the comb and flip them using the path, but I would like to be able to see if there is something more optimal that we can do. We can cast up to each of the spells once per round, so we can cast up to 3 spells per round. We want to try to get as many of those as possible, but it may not be possible based on the cards we have out. Let's see, these 2 are also opposite one another, so we could use those perhaps. We have a leaf, and a blue card, so we could activate these using divergence. We could also then activate these using the path, but then I would not have access to this blue card because it will activate twice. So I think it's a little more important to try to get a variety of cards to start with. Therefore, I'm going to use the comb to swap these 2 adjacent cards. We'll be able to activate these now using the path, and we'll still have access to all of our other cards. I'm going to forego using the fire or leaf icons for this round. Let's see what we can do. So activating the path, both of these cards will rotate 180 degrees. Then we're also going to activate the divergence, which will allow us to manipulate, starting with this card, card number 1, and choose where you start. There's a green leaf. You have a blue leaf, so they share the same symbol, and a blue fire icon, so they share the same color. Okay, so moving on to the next round, we are going to advance our maiden 1 space on the track. Again, she'll help us keep track back of the 12 rounds in which we have to escape the forest. We will shuffle up our 4 item cards, place out 3 for next round. Oh, we have the same 3, so we won't be able to manipulate our bird cards this round. So we could certainly do the same thing. The only problem with that is that we will not be able to use, again, those colors or symbols. So if we do that, we would only have 1 comb left that's red, which we will have all of our red cards in play. In addition to that, we'll have 1 yellow leaf with another yellow card. We'll also have some green cards in play. Is there any way that we can get a variety of cards instead? Oh, okay, so we can use our comb. Oh, no, because this is a bird. I was thinking if we can manipulate these so they're across from one another. That would be a little more ideal. I think we will just have to go for it because, again, I can't place a red card adjacent from here, use this card because it has a bird on it. So we are going to go ahead and do the same thing, I suppose. We'll flip over these 2 path cards, and then we will flip over these 3 divergence cards. A bad feeling about this. Okay, our maiden is going to go forward 1. We'll shuffle together our different items. Okay, let's see. We have access to our bird, our comb, and the leaf this round. We cannot manipulate cards that have fire on them. So we can definitely swap these 2 in order to rotate these. I think we need to really make sure that we're careful though, seeing as we only have 2 green cards and 2 yellow cards. So ideally, we would want the red cards to be evenly split out, but we can't check this one because it has fire on it. Oh no. So we're gonna have to get a little bit more creative. We do have our bird. It might be a good idea to manipulate some of these cards instead. Oh, and we do have a yellow card that we can manipulate. So if I did like yellow, bird, we could get all 4 of those, which would be pretty nice, I think. So let's see, we can use, is that going to be possible? Yes, okay. We'll use the comb to swap these 2 adjacent cards. We have yellow, bird, and then I would need my other bird here. Oh no, the fire is the one that lets us swap any 2 cards. So that's not going to work. Okay. It's gonna be all right. We might just have to go for 3 cards instead. Oh, and we can't swap this anyway because it has fire on it. I don't know what I was thinking icon was. Whew, told you it was too good to be true. So let's instead see if we can just manipulate those 3 cards. So what we can do is we can swap 2 cards that have the same color, and then we can swap 2 adjacent cards, like so. Now these 3 cards are evenly spaced, and we have oh no, this one has fire on it too. Okay, let's see, is there anything else we can do then? I'm honestly not sure. I suppose we can just flip 2 of the bird cards. Our other option would be to swap these 2, which doesn't really help us out that much. We could swap these 2 bird cards. That's what we'll do. We'll use the bird to swap 2 cards with a matching icon. Now these 2 are located across from one another, and I suppose there's not much else we can do at this particular point. Our birds are somewhat a little bit more evenly spaced. So hopefully in the future we will be able to get some combos with those. So we're going to use the path during the night phase to flip these 2 cards over. We'll advance our round by 1 and shuffle up our items. So you're probably seeing that you can really block yourself out of a win if you're too overzealous early on. I'm hoping that's not the case there, but we'll certainly see. All right, we cannot manipulate leaf cards. So just this 1 yellow card is off limits. Everything else is fine. We have our fire card back, which is really good. So what we can do is we have fire fire and we have some red cards. So maybe we should, oh, if I place, so we have red, and then shared fire icons. So those are already 4 apart. Manipulate those. Ideally, we want to get this card in the mix with that as well, though. Maybe we can swap these 2, which are adjacent, using the comb. Oh, but this would need to be here then. So instead of doing that, we could, let's swap these 2 cards instead. Now we have 1, 2, this one, and we need 1 here that's red. So I'm going to use the fire card, swap this here. Any 2 cards can be manipulated. Now we have them evenly spaced out as 4s. Unfortunately, we can't do the path as well. Let's see if we can get these 2 bird cards across from one another. We could if we were able to manipulate this leaf. Oh no, we couldn't, not based on this card. All right, so I think we're just going to cast the 1 spell, which is the crossroads. So we have a red card, which matches a red card, which matches a red card, and then the fire icon here matches the fire icon here. Okay, so we're getting close. We're about well, we're not even halfway done. We've made significant progress on getting rid of these magical trees here, but we're also running into some potential obstacles. We can't manipulate these 2 cards this round. Let's see what we can do. We have a bird, we have a bird, we have a bird, and we have a red card. So are we able to get those evenly spaced out again? If we swap these 2 and these 2, we could, but we don't have cards that would allow us to do that necessarily. So our other option is to trigger these 3 cards potentially, or the 3 red cards, but that leaves us in a pretty bad spot because our green and our yellow cards would have no shared symbols. We would just have to manipulate them the exact same amount of times. Oh dear. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below what I did wrong, because I'm sure that there might be some easier things, but games that tend to have these kinds of options with symbols and colors that you have to keep track of are surprisingly strategic. At least if you're on the same strategy level as I am, for sure. That was one of those things that sounds so basic, you know, like, oh, can you count to 12? Do you know your 3 primary colors plus green? And can you identify 4 different basic shapes? Yes. However, when they're all placed together, it becomes a little bit more challenging. And this one has some spatial reasoning as well. So all my strong suits all in one game. Let's go. How about, that was me stalling, and it stalled the video, but it didn't stall the, like, it didn't buy me time to strategize. My mouth was doing this and my brain was just flatlining. All right, we cannot manipulate fire cards. We really need to get this card doing something. So we have a bird, and a bird. That could be cool. And if we manipulate those, our yellow card has to be in on that as well, though. Otherwise, we won't be able to manipulate this card at all, and we'll lose. So is there a way to get these cards, oh wait, these cards all together? And we need to go birds some form away from each other. Then I would need my yellow cards to be next to each other in some capacity as well. So what I could do is maybe use this one to swap these 2. And then, so we have yellow, bird, bird. I would just need to have another bird here. I've botched it. Okay, I think we're just gonna have to get as close as we can and leave it at that. I'll still be able to manipulate this card if I use the path to flip these 2 trees. And again, since they've already been activated once, we're gonna flip them to their dormant sides. I believe that's what it's called. Okay. Rotate For the new round, flip our card. Hopefully it's a comb, since we don't have any combs left. That will allow us to freely manipulate any of the cards that are left out on the board. Hey, that's awesome. So is there a way for us to activate this twice and to activate all the other ones? I don't at all believe so. In fact, that's going to be, so what we have to do, follow me here, we have to activate these 2 cards using the path, which means this card will be out of play. And then, oh no, oh wait, this card will be out of play. And then we have to activate all 4 of these cards exactly once using the crossroads. I think this is doable. So we can use this to, we want to set it up as much as possible. So what I'm going to do first is swap 2 opposed cards using the leaf. This one and this one. That way the birds are 2 or 3 cards apart, however you want to look at it. And then we can swap 2 cards where color or object are adjacent. So I can swap, oh no, that won't be good. I'll have to get this one oriented here somehow, but I need to use the any 2 cards this round to swap. Oh, these 2. Okay, we're just gonna have to do that. Hope we get the correct cards later on. All right, so we're going to use the path now to activate these 2 cards, which are directly opposite one another. We'll flip to its dormant side. This will rotate 180 degrees. Our Maiden will rotate forward 1 space. Oh no, are we going to be able to do it? Honestly, we really just need to get our cards. I mean, if we get fire again, as long as we don't get a bird or a leaf, we should be okay. Oh no. Okay, well, we can hope to set this up. The other thing we could do, which will probably be easier, is to get these 2 cards adjacent or opposite one another, and then we have 2 yellows since they have same symbol, same color. So we do have some time to do that, luckily. All right, so let's see if we can set it up as much as possible. We are not allowed to manipulate the comb icon. Oh, so we could potentially get all 3 on this turn, but I think that's going to be a little easier said than done, because we would need this to be over 1, and then we would need this to be over 2, which we don't have access to the comb for this round. So I think we're just going to go ahead and swap. These 2 have different icons, and if we draw the bird, we won't be able to manipulate any of them. So I think I want to prioritize these 2, because then if we draw the bird or the leaf, like there's a 50-50 chance we won't be able to flip those, if that makes sense. I'm going to use this one to swap any 2 cards. We'll swap this one and this one. That will allow us to activate these 2 using the path. And then eventually all we'll have to do is get these 2 across from one another. Use the path, shuffle up our icons, rotate forward. As long as we don't get the bird icon, we're good for this round, which there's only a 25% chance that we will draw it. Been pretty good. Oh, all right, so we can't manipulate them. We're going to just have to advance forward here. Again, 1 in 4 chance. We have more than 4 chances, so we should be okay. That's how math works, right? Okay, let's see. All right. Woo. Okay, so what we're going to do then is use our fire cards to swap any 2 cards, like so. And then during the nighttime phase, we'll activate the path spell, which will allow us to flip these cards. And we have escaped the forest and won the game. So there you have it. That is a solo playthrough of The Maiden in the Forest, designed by Todd Sanders. Now, if you've seen my top 10 solo games video, then you already know that I love this game. I think it's a fantastic solo game. I also personally really love it in terms of just micro games in general. I think it's crazy how much depth of strategy you can get out of this small package of just 18 cards. I also think that the art is very minimalistic, but it really adds to the overall aesthetic. So thank you to Todd Sanders and Fabrice Weiss for collaborating on the design for this game. It looks absolutely gorgeous on the table with a circular pattern set up. It's just very satisfying all around. In addition to that, I would say If you're looking at this and thinking, wow, it's probably too simple, again, if you heard me talking through the playthrough, there are definitely ways that you can trip yourself up very early on if you're not careful. It really does require you to think ahead and not just do what might be best from turn to turn. So I love the fact that you have to practice restraints in making your choices and really plan ahead. And as I said as well, even though it's just colors and a couple symbols and just 12 cards that you're really manipulating, there's a lot of depth here. When you have the convergence of all of those different considerations coming into play, it makes for some really interesting choices. So this is a really great one to pick up if you're into games that have a smaller footprint and looking for a new solo game. There is a free print and play version on Board Game Geek, so I'll put a link down in the description to that in case you're interested in trying it out. If you have an opportunity to get a published copy, this one's from Button Shy Games. I have to say, the little wallet, super nifty. I personally have my cards sleeved when I'm not playing on camera, and they fit in here quite nicely, so I would definitely recommend picking up a published copy if you're able to, because the production, the price, the game, the aesthetic, all of it is just a really fantastic package. That's all the time we have for today. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please feel free to leave a like. You can also subscribe down below for more board game content. And let me know, are there other micro games that you'd like to see me try out? I love micro games, maybe you do too, so please leave them down in the comments below if you have any recommendations. Thank you again so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye!